You just made 2 solids on the break and the table is still open. Now take a second to pause the video and plan, how would you get out from here? You got your plan? This isn't just any rack though. See, I specifically placed every ball to highlight a key tactic and strategy that I use every time I play 8-ball. The same tactics and strategies that I use to get crowned the 8-ball run king of my local league. Alright, so I've got this table set up to highlight some very specific tactics and strategies that I use to get more 8-ball runs. Each ball that we shoot should have some kind of point behind it, some kind of takeaway, and by the end of the rack, everything will kind of come together and it all makes sense. And so let's go ahead and get into the set selection of stripes versus solids, which brings us into our first point. Assets versus liabilities on the table. If we look at the solids, we made 2 solids on the break, but the only ball that's really sitting well is the 6-ball, and we have access to the 1, but it doesn't really do anything for any of our other problem balls, like the 3, the 4, and the 2. Why is the 2 a problem ball? Because shooting from here is about as high as you'd like to get up on the rail. If you get down here, it gets really hard to make this 2-ball. And down here, the 12-ball starts getting in the way. So it's a bit risky. You only have from about here to get decent position on the 2. And there's no really good way to get down here to get position on the 2, unless you had, I guess, the right angle on the 6, but even then, it's kind of low percentage. And additionally, the only way we can really deal with the 3-ball, with the balls that we have available on the table, is maybe we get straight in on the 1, we draw back into it. But even if you drew back into this, there's a good chance that you're gonna come back, you're gonna hit it, the 3 ball's gonna come off the rail, and it's still gonna be stuck on the 10, the 4, the 11, right? Because it's not gonna go past the 4 and the 11, it's not gonna go past the 10, and there's a chance that even the 9-ball comes out and it blocks it down here to this corner pocket. And the 4, well, there's really just no way to deal with it. So let's go ahead and go with stripes then. So with stripes, we have to think about what problems we have on the table. Similar areas, we have the 9-ball that's tied up, we have the 11-ball that's tied up, and then we have the 12 over here. Why is the 12 a bit of a problem? Well, the area to get position on it is actually pretty tight. So you have about from here to about there. And we could try to go above it, above the 8, and take a sharp cut, but it's kind of a tough shot. So if we can take it down here, it'd be better. Now, how can we break out the 4 and 11? Well, we could use the 10 right now, and we have a good angle to go into it. All right, we could shoot this kind of a center cue ball and just go down table. We could bump it, or we could use the 13 that's sitting here. But I've got a better idea. Now, this is still an open table, and we can play the 4-11 combo, which takes us into one of our key things that we can do at the beginning of a rack. If we have a ball that's tied up with one of their balls, and we can shoot their ball first, and it's not their ball yet, but it's going to be, and free up one of our problem balls, that has to be the first shot. So we have to prioritize this shot and shoot it first, because it's the only time we're gonna be able to deal with this 11 ball essentially for free. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shoot this 11, well, the 4-11 combo, and actually this offers really good position to get on the 12. So let's go ahead and do that. Now for this shot, I'm just gonna hit it with top and a hair of outside, and the outside is just to hold it so it doesn't go down below the 2. All right, that's pretty good. And now if you remember, the 12 ball was our other problem ball, which takes us into our second point. Deal with your problem balls first. Now, we've already taken care of the 11, and up next we have the 12, which we've already got shape on. Our last problem ball is the 9. Now, should we try to use the 12 and go 2 rails and try to break out the 9 right now? No. We're using the 10 as our key ball to break out the 9. So we're going to use the 12 to get shape on the 10, because all we have to do is float up table. If we had a little less angle, we could go 2 rails into it. But all we got to do right now is make this 12 and just kind of float up and leave an angle on the 10 to go into the 9 and 3. So again, this is pretty much the same shot. I'm just going to use top with a little bit of outside. All right. And that is a good angle to go into the 3-9. Now, before we shoot this ball, let's get into our next point. So the 3 and 9 are tied up. And I see a lot of players, whenever they go for a breakout, they just slam into these balls as hard as they can. But what happens if we slam into this 9 ball and the 3? So let's say the cue ball comes down, it hits the 3. The 3 and 9 are lined up so that the 9's gonna go here. And it could get stuck down on this bottom rail if we leave it like that, and we're gonna have an angle on the 14. So now we gotta get the table, the cue ball is gonna come up table, and we gotta find a way to get back down to get on the 9 ball if it sticks down here. Now if we hit it a little bit harder, it could come out, and now we have a problem where it's kind of tied up with the 14, so we gotta get down here below it and then shoot the 14 first, and then we gotta get back down table for the 9. That's gonna be tough. If you hit it even harder, it could come over here, get behind the 6. Really all we need to do is get the 9 ball to come out to about here at least so that we can get it past the 1. Once we do that, we'll have successfully broken it out. Now I'm gonna hit it a little bit firmer because if I'm thinking about it, which brings us into another point, what are we gonna shoot after this? Well, we're probably not guaranteed shape on the 9, right? And it's gonna be tough to get shape on the 15 or the 13, so we're gonna use the 14. So every other ball that we have on the table is a bit of an asset for us. And so this is going to be our safety ball for this breakout. It's gonna be a backup, and it's what we're gonna play position on instead of playing for position on the 9. So let's go ahead and shoot this. I'm just gonna bump the 3-9, try to get it out, and then get shape on the 14. And for this, I'm gonna hit it, I guess I'll just kind of stun it down and use the tangent line to hit the 3-9. All right. So it did almost get down there, but you notice it's a little bit off the rail, so we're good. We can come all the way up here and still feel pretty comfortable with making that 9 ball. But now this gets us into our next point. We've dealt with all the problem balls on the table in the first, 3 shots? And now all we have to do is run out. And so this is where it starts to get easy, but you have to be mindful and not get sloppy with your position, because as you get less and less options on the table, it's gonna get harder to get good position. So what we can start doing is working backwards from the 8 ball over here. So how are we gonna get shape on the 8? We could use the 15 or the 13. They're both pretty decent, but I prefer the 13. The reason I prefer the 13, if you get straight in, it's a stop shot. If you get a little bit of angle, it's just go into the rail and back out. If you get a lot of angle, you can go into the rail and across the table. And if you get on this side, you can just float over for the 8. So if we're gonna play the 13 before the 8, we can probably use the 15 to get on the 13. And that means since we're shooting the 14 next, we have to shoot the 14, then we have to shoot the 9. And all we gotta think about is what angle do we want on the 9 to get shape on the 15. Now it's kind of tempting to come up table and get shape on the side pocket, but if you do that, you get a little bit of the wrong angle. Let's say you end up on like this line. Now you have the cue ball going away from the 13. You might have to run it 3 cushions. It's not very good. So I'm gonna play it for this corner, because as long as I get anywhere from here to here, or really from here to a little bit up there, which is kind of in line with the 9, I'll be fine as far as position goes on the 13. So we're gonna shoot this 14, and we're gonna try to leave just a little bit of inside angle, or we could come up, that might be easier to control if we have an angle that goes into the rail and then back out. And so once the table is open, the point is work backwards from the 8 ball and figure out the rest of your run. All right, so for this shot, I'm just gonna hold it a little top outside, float up, leave shape on the 9 ball. Now it came out a little more than I wanted it to, admittedly. And we could still use the 9 to get on the 15. Left a little more angle than I wanted, but it's okay. We're just gonna go we're just gonna make this, kind of slow roll it, and we're gonna play the 15 in this corner pocket. All right, so even though we didn't get ideal position, because we knew the angle that we had coming from the 9 going into the 15, we left ourselves still pretty good. And now all we have to do is can finish out our pattern, and we're gonna shoot the 15, then the 13, then the 8. So this is just kind of a stun shot. We'll float it over just a hair to get shape on the 13. Just about missed it. But here, see, this is what I was talking about before. So we didn't get really straight in. And this is the final point I guess I'll go into. So there is a bit of a, I do this sometimes. So I sometimes want to try to hold this and still shoot a stop shot. But if you're looking at that angle, there's no stop shot available here. So instead what we should do is either hit with top and go to the bottom rail and come back out, or we can hit with bottom and just float over for the 8 ball in the same corner pocket. And so don't be afraid to change your plan. So this is just gonna be a slight draw. I'm gonna hit it a little firm. We're gonna come across for the 8 ball in the same pocket. All right, and now we're on the 8. All we gotta do is pocket it. And you notice how easy the shot is because we left a good key ball to shoot the 8. And that's it. Well, I hope you got something out of this video. I'd be interested to hear if the way that I got out of the rack is the same way that you chose, or if you had something else in mind. Would you have shot this 9 ball the same way? It was kind of risky the way I hit it slow, right? And coming up like that. Perhaps I could have came out 2 rails over here for the side pocket, or just committed with a little bit of inside top, and then I could have came down again for the side pocket, just because I had so much angle. Anyways, if you'd like to support the channel, download the World of Pool and Billiards app. Consider getting a premium subscription to get rid of the ads and unlock all content. And I will see you guys in the next video.